Hi, welcome to Kitchen Basics. I'm Dan Pariser, and today we're going to be making a roast beef. I've gone to the butcher and gotten a 3.5 pound top round roast. I've asked him to tie it. As you can see, this is to keep it together while it's in the oven. It's an important step, so don't forget it and don't let him forget it. The first thing we're going to do is dry the roast. There's always a little juice that comes out while you're on the way home from the store. And since we're going to be searing it, it sears much better when it's dry. Salt and pepper, liberally, always. And then some olive oil. And some butter. The olive oil is going to smoke at a much higher temperature than the butter. So that will enable us to have a higher temperature for the oil, and that will give us a deeper sear. The butter is just for flavor. As soon as the butter stops foaming, and you can see and hear it, we'll put in the roast. Let's put it the salt and pepper side down and season the other side. We sear the roast for two reasons. The first is because to some small extent it helps lock in the juices and keeps the meat moist. But most important, it's for taste. Beef roast is a good source of healthy protein, but it doesn't have much fat in it, so it doesn't have much flavor. In order to give it the flavor, we season it liberally, but we also sear it and caramelize the outside of the meat, giving it that deep, rich flavor. To get that flavor, we have to give it some time and some heat. Don't be tempted to move this around. Don't be tempted to turn it all the time. Let it sit, let the heat do its thing, and we'll come back in about 4 to 5 minutes. It's been about 5 minutes since we put the roast in, and it's time to turn it the first time. It always takes a little longer on the first time. But you see how nice and dark brown that color is? That's what we're looking for. If you turn it and it's not that color, turn it back, give it another minute, and it'll be fine. Don't worry about the juices. Some of the juices are coming out of it, but what the searing does, and whenever you put heat to meat or any other protein, is that it forms little pockets of steam just under the surface. And those drive the juices away from it. So when we had it on this side, the juices were being forced to the other side. Now that we've turned it over, the juices are coming back towards us. It's another 5 minutes, and we'll give the roast another quarter turn. There's about another 5 minutes to sear the final side, so let's preheat the oven now, 350 degrees, and get it ready for when the roast is ready to go in. All right, one final turn. See how brown that is? That's exactly the color you're looking for. And on the last side, we can put it right into the oven. The roast will take about an hour. It's 3.5 pounds, and it takes about 20 minutes per pound. So the roast has been in the oven about 45 minutes, and it's time to check. You can see it's developing some nice pan juices. This is a meat thermometer, one of the new kind that they have. It's an instant read thermometer, so we only put it in for a couple of seconds. While it's coming up to temperature, you all may remember this meat thermometer. Your mother may have had one very much like it. This kind goes into the roast and stays there the entire time that it's cooking. I don't prefer them because when it's in the roast, this metal spike will conduct the heat of the oven into the roast and give you a much more well done spot in the roast than the rest of the roast. We're up to about 120 degrees, which is a little low. For rare roast beef, we want about 140, and more done than that, depending on if you want it more well done. So it needs about another 15 minutes, and then we'll check it again. All right, it's been about an hour and a quarter. The thermometer tells me it's 135, but that's good because it will continue to cook after we've taken it out of the oven, and the temperature will go up by about 5 degrees, which will be perfectly medium rare. Let's take it out of the pan and just let it sit and rest for a few minutes. The reason for the resting is to redistribute the juices inside. You remember when I told you that when we cook it, it forms steam under the surface and forces the juices away. So all the juices are now in the center of the meat. We'll give them a few minutes and let them redistribute back to all of the tissues of the meat. If we don't do that, the outside is going to be hard, tough, and stringy, and you don't want that. Now the meat is rested for a couple of minutes, and it's time to slice it. First, let's take the strings off. Now you can see there are still some juices coming out, but much less than if we hadn't rested it. The grain of the meat, that is the fibers of the muscle, are running this way, so we slice across them and at an angle, and that'll give us the tenderest, tastiest meat. Perfectly pink and medium rare.